Have you ever wondered why Bitcoin can soar one month and crash the next? Most people blame market sentiment or large investors called crypto whales, but there's a hidden force that's actually controlling your crypto investments right now. Today, I'm going to reveal how central banks around the world are secretly influencing cryptocurrency prices through one simple tool: interest rates. What most people don't realize is that the decision of some banker in a suit might be more important than any crypto news or tech update. And in the next 10 minutes, I'll show you exactly how to use this knowledge to potentially protect your investments and spot opportunities others miss. First, let's make sure we're on the same page. Cryptocurrencies are digital forms of money that exist on computer networks called blockchains. Unlike traditional money, they are not controlled by governments or banks. Bitcoin is the most famous example, but there are thousands of different cryptocurrencies. Here's the problem. Even though cryptocurrencies were created to exist independently from traditional finance, the reality is that crypto markets are deeply connected to the broader economy. Let me break this down simply. When you put money in a savings account, the bank pays you interest, right? That's the cost of borrowing your money. Well, central banks like the Federal Reserve in the US and Bank of England set the foundation for all interest rates across the economy. Think of central banks like the conductors of an economic orchestra. When they want the economy to slow down, they raise interest rates, like a conductor telling musicians to play more softly. When these central banks raise interest rates, it creates a domino effect. Banks charge more for loans, businesses borrow less, consumers spend less, and the economy slows down. But why should crypto investors care about this? Because it completely changes how money flows through the entire financial system. When interest rates are low, that savings account might pay you just 0.5%. Not very exciting, right? So what do investors do? They look for higher returns in riskier investments like stocks, real estate, and yes, cryptocurrencies. But when rates go up, suddenly that savings account might pay 4 or 5% guaranteed with virtually no risk. Now those risky crypto investments don't look as attractive by comparison. But it gets even more interesting. Cryptocurrencies are what investors call risk-on assets. This is financial jargon for investments that perform well when people feel optimistic about the economy and are willing to take chances. Think of risk-on investments like lottery tickets, potentially high reward but very uncertain. The opposite of this is risk-off assets, things like government bonds, gold, and cash, which are more like putting your money in a safe. You won't get rich quickly, but you know it'll be there when you need it. Let me give you a real example. In 2021, interest rates were at historic lows due to the pandemic. The Federal Reserve's benchmark rate was near zero. And what happened to crypto? Bitcoin reached an all-time high of nearly $69,000, which was about 10 times higher than its previous value. But then, in 2022, inflation started rising rapidly. The Fed responded by aggressively raising interest rates multiple times. And what happened to crypto? Bitcoin crashed below $20,000, losing more than 2/3 of its value. This wasn't just happening by chance. There's a direct relationship between these events. When interest rates rise, safer investments become more attractive, while making it more expensive for speculative investments to thrive. Here's where it gets even more interesting. Inflation, which is simply the rising cost of everyday goods, is the arch nemesis of central banks. When prices rise too quickly, central banks fight back by raising interest rates. Think of interest rates like the price of money. When that price is high, people become more careful about where they spend it. Just like you might skip buying luxury items when prices rise. So to really understand crypto markets, you need to watch inflation rates, central bank statements, and decisions and changes in benchmark interest rates. Now you might be thinking, okay, but don't interest rates affect everything? Why are cryptocurrencies special? Great question. Let's compare how different investments respond Government bonds have a direct relationship with interest rates. When rates go up, bond prices go down. It's mechanical and predictable. Stocks are more complicated. Higher rates can hurt company profits due to higher borrowing costs, but some sectors actually benefit from higher rates, like banks. Cryptocurrencies, however, tend to be hyper-responsive to interest rate changes. Why? Because they're still considered highly speculative, don't generate cash flow on their own, unlike businesses that earn money and attract investors looking for the highest possible returns. This means that when interest rates change, crypto markets often react more dramatically than traditional investments. But here's what most people miss. So, how can you actually use this information? Let me give you 3 practical strategies. First, mark your calendar for central bank announcement days. In the US, that's the Federal Reserve's FOMC, Federal Open Market Committee meetings, which happen 8 times per year. These announcements often create immediate volatility in crypto markets, sometimes in unexpected directions. Second, consider adjusting your crypto portfolio based on the interest rate environment. During low or falling rates, you might allocate more to high-growth, speculative cryptos. During high or rising rates, you might shift toward more established cryptos or even reduce your overall crypto exposure. Third, if you are exploring DeFi or decentralized finance, which is basically a collection of financial services built on blockchain technology that let you lend, borrow, or earn interest on your crypto without banks. Watch how traditional interest rates influence these platforms. DeFi platforms are like digital banks without the building or bankers. They let people lend and borrow cryptocurrencies directly from each other using computer code instead of human loan officers. When traditional interest rates rise, some investors move their money from these DeFi platforms back to traditional investments, which can affect how much interest you can earn and how easily you can buy or sell your crypto, what experts call liquidity. It's crucial to understand that interest rates are just one factor affecting crypto prices. The market is also influenced by technological developments like upgrades to blockchain networks, regulatory news such as new government rules about crypto, institutional adoption, meaning big companies buying crypto, market sentiment, or how investors feel about the future, and crypto-specific events like halvings, when the reward for mining Bitcoin gets cut in half, which happens every 4 years. Sometimes these factors can completely overwhelm the interest rate effect. For example, major news about crypto regulation might cause prices to move regardless of what interest rates are doing, and sometimes cryptocurrencies can move in the opposite direction you'd expect. In late 2024, even as interest rates remained relatively high, Bitcoin saw significant price increases due to more big companies buying it and more people accepting it as a legitimate asset. The key is to use interest rate knowledge as one tool in your analytical toolkit, not as the only factor guiding your decisions. But here's the truly fascinating twist. What happens when central banks themselves start issuing their own digital currencies? Central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs, are basically official government versions of crypto, and they're already being developed by dozens of countries. When they arrive at scale, they could completely transform the relationship between traditional monetary policy and crypto markets. The very institutions that affect crypto through interest rates might become direct competitors or collaborators with existing cryptocurrencies. The future relationship between interest rates and crypto might look nothing like what we see today. That's why I'm dedicated to keeping you updated on these crucial economic factors that most crypto channels never talk about. Hit subscribe to get notified about my next video and drop a comment below. What economic factor do you think impacts crypto prices the most? I read every comment and use them to plan future videos. Until next time, remember, sometimes the biggest influences on your crypto investments come from outside the crypto world entirely.